and whatnot, but there was actually this point where I show speed literally could not get a goal at all. Like KSI, every member of the Sidemen, and everyone in the Sidemen team were trying to stop ISO Speed from scoring a goal. He had this one point where he had a penalty and he misses the penalty, and then you've got also got XQC, who's not a very decent goalie, so he let like Toby Jizzle's brother get a hat trick, and then you also had Ethan or Bazinga or whatever, who got this goal where he was sliding and topless because there's this famous football player that he really liked. So he decided, yeah, I'm gonna do that exact move. So you've got that kind of stuff. You've got that definitely. I do believe there was also a point where KC Nat had an offside goal. Like he thought to himself, right? He was like, I get the goal, right? I got this goal, but it was offside, which means it didn't count. And I'm pretty sure the score of this match was like 8-5 to Sidemen. Now, if you know football itself, there's not tons and tons of games where you get 8-5. Like in a rugby game, you get like over that, like for a try, you get 5 points, and then for like a penalty, it's 3 points, whatever. But in a game of football, you don't necessarily see that all the time. So there's definitely that, and I definitely had a good time watching it. I did watch like the live stream, and the live stream got like 18 million views, I believe. So at the time I'm recording, it's 18 million, something like that. So definitely that. It's like a 3 hour long live stream. But I did skim through the parts that kind of boring where they're introducing the players and all that. I didn't really care about that. I was just trying to watch like the actual game itself. So I definitely enjoyed that. Definitely a different change.
You are about to experience the James Rambling Show, hosted by James Petty.
Hello, welcome back to the James Ramlin Show for yet another episode. And before we dive into today's episode, this is actually a bit delayed because I did mention in the community tab post that I tried to record it, and I recorded it at this time where I had a terrible original version. And also, there is some kind of strange lighting in this episode because one of my lights kind of popped. So, if there's not like a lot of bright stuff in here, that's why I've had to actually put a lamp closer to the mic so there's more light towards me. So, once you kind of get outside of that, right, what am I even talking about in today's episode? Well, it's definitely going to be different to last week's episode about the One Piece live action remake because this week I'm gonna be diving into this new like event that happened yesterday that I did talk about in that version, but now we're gonna talk about it now. So there's this thing called the Sidemen charity match. So pretty much what the Sidemen charity match is, it's mostly this yearly thing, but there was this one year where they couldn't do it because of the pandemic. So it's the Sidemen, this group of YouTubers that I have been dabbling back into as of late that have decided to make this like football game against these YouTube All Stars. And this year, I do actually have the lineup, but like some of the Sidemen members you obviously know is like WTS, you've got KSI as the goalie, you've got Toby, you've got Manny, who's Toby Jizzle's brother. So you've got your kind of well known people in there. There's also Angry Ginge. There was also this guy called Deji, who's KSI's brother, and then on this opposite end of this team was you had Kai Cenat, which is like this creator that I'm not too well versed in. Like I've seen some clips of Kai Cenat, but you have Kai Cenat, you got Jacksepticeye, you had Dio Baker, you had Gideon, Duke Dennis, Nico Melina, whatever, Wilney, Max Voss. There was also XQC, who was the goalie. There's also iShowSpeed, who's like this famous YouTuber that has like 20 million subscribers. So you had quite a lot of like very well known creators. So what I actually found kind of interesting about this game was how you had the YouTubers against the All Stars and the Sidemen and whatnot, but there was actually this point where ISO speed, literally could not get a goal at all. Like KSI, every member of the Sidemen and everyone in the Sidemen team were trying to stop ISO speed from scoring a goal. He had this one point where he had a penalty and he misses the penalty, and then you've got also got XQC, who's not a very decent goalie, so he let like Toby Jizzle's brother get a hat trick, and then you also had Ethan or Bazinga or whatever, who got this goal where he was sliding and topless because there's this famous football player that he really liked. So he decided, yeah, I'm gonna do that exact move. So you've got that kind of stuff. You've got that definitely. I do believe there was also a point where KC Nat had an offside goal. Like he thought to himself, right? He was like, I get the goal, right? I got this goal, but it was offside, which means it didn't count. And I'm pretty sure the score of this match was like 8-5 to Sidemen. Now, if you know football itself, there's not tons and tons of games where you get 8-5. Like in a rugby game, you get like over that, like for a try, you get 5 points, and then for like a penalty, it's 3 points, whatever. But in a game of football, you don't necessarily see that all the time. So there's definitely that, and I definitely had a good time watching it. I did watch like the live stream, and the live stream got like 18 million views, I believe. So at the time I'm recording, it's 18 million, something like that. So definitely that. It's like a 3 hour long live stream, but I did skim through the parts that kind of boring where they're introducing the players and all that. I didn't really care about that. I was just trying to watch like the actual game itself. So I definitely enjoyed that. Definitely a different change of pace there. You also had laser beam and stuff like that. So I guess you've got that where you've got the Sidemen charity match. So what I'm gonna do now is I guess we could dabble into the Sidemen now. If you remember, like a year ago at this point on the James Ramlin show, I did this like YouTubers episode, but I have to admit that it hasn't aged well. There was some choppy parts. It didn't really feel that good. But I did mention in the start there was like KSI and the Sidemen. Now, as of late, I have actually been getting back into the Sidemen's videos, and if you don't know who they are, right, I mentioned some of them there because they were in the charity match. You've got Mini Minter, you've got KSI, you've got Zerka, you've got Bazinga, you've got WTS, you've got Toby Jizzle, and I also believe you also had another member, but there's like 7 of them, right? And they make these YouTube videos, definitely interesting YouTube videos. Like one of their videos that they made, like last week, I want to say, was this drunk fishing battle, and then you had like this car thing, and also doing the charity match, and then they have sidemen reacts. You've got that kind of stuff. They've also done gaming videos, so they've done all these kind of like random videos, kind of styles. But definitely, what makes this Sidemen kind of be very good is how they have been doing this for a while. Like they've been doing it since 2013. They all have good chemistry. There are points where KSI isn't always in there because he's obviously going to fights and he's fighting against Tom Fury, and that's why he had to be the goalie so he could have enough. He didn't get injured, so he doesn't get injured on the field because he's going to be fighting Tom Fury. So you get the Sidemen, and I did change my location to the UK, and that's how I kind of dabbled back into it because the Sidemen are a very popular YouTube group, and definitely there's definitely that, right? So I might as well talk about Laserbeam and Lachlan. So these are kind of these YouTubers that I haven't entirely dabbled into before. Obviously, I've done a YouTubers episode, but Laserbeam and Lachlan, like, so Laserbeam is this very, very famous YouTuber from Australia. He's got like 20 million subscribers, as I said. And he did stuff like Fortnite. He even did these videos where he smashed laptops, and he's also done this video of like these like machines like outside and all that kind of stuff. You had that stuff going around, but he's mostly known for Fortnite, and he also was really into NFL. And he kind of like swears in his videos, like "crikey, my, oi, my, freaking stupid." And he's kind of like that kind of YouTuber. He was in the Sidemen charity match, didn't really score many goals, so I definitely do like Laserbeam. And I don't think I've ever touched on Fortnite, but literally what Fortnite is, it's like this very famous game where you have 100 people and you have to survive and you had all these guns. And one reason why I actually got into Laser Beam as of late is because he was going to come on a Trash Taste, and Lachlan came on a Trash Taste as well. Both of the episodes were decent. But before I go back to like some Fortnite stuff, I do want to slightly touch on my new perspective on Trash Taste. Now, if you know about the James Ramblin' Show, one thing that I really liked about Trash Taste was like this anime podcast, but they aren't really an anime podcast. But recently, I'm not really the biggest fan of Trash Taste, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I liked the Laser Beam episode. I liked the Lachlan episode. There was also this episode with Boy and I did a thing where they were kind of like these different guests I kind of didn't know about. But a lot of their episodes are kind of boring, if I'm being honest with you. Like, right, there was this one episode where they were talking about Cards Against Humanity and how it's a bad game and it's a hot take. But literally, right, Cards Against Humanity, it's supposed to be controversial. That's kind of the point. And I've not really played that game, but I know it's controversial. So it's kind of dumb that like hot takes on that kind of stuff. But it's just generally because they've kind of ran out of ideas that a lot of their stuff is pretty boring, pretty predictable, and it's hard to invest in it now. And so that's why the laser beam stuff was interesting because he was this guy that's only kind of dabbled into anime, right? He only got into like Attack on Titan, and they only talked about like Japan stuff with Lachlan until like the very end of the last 20-30 minutes. So I definitely think that's why that happened. And so you get that where I'm not very into trash taste anymore. I'll probably watch episodes when they have interesting guests that I don't really know about, or like they give a different vibe to the show, if you know what I mean. And also like trash taste, right? Some of their episodes now get average like 700,000 or 500,000. Like they're not getting so many views. Like the Chris Broad one got the most views, but they haven't gotten tons and tons of views, if that makes sense. So to go back to Fortnite right now, it's kind of weird how I've never really talked about Fortnite a lot on this podcast because I was very obsessed with it. But anyways, right, I do remember when I got into Fortnite, and I do have a story to tell. So back in 2018, right, I want to say I was playing Fortnite, right? I was getting into Fortnite, and there's this thing called like the Battle Pass, like V-Bucks. And if you know about Fortnite, there's all these stories where you have the V-Bucks and the V-Bucks scams and using money off your parents, not asking for permission. So what I did was I bought this stuff off Fortnite, then asked my dad, and he got mad at me. And that's kind of a thing with Fortnite in general. So once you dive outside of that, right, I do kind of want to follow through on some more YouTubers that I've never really talked about since we were kind of going on about that anyways. So there's this guy called Bald and Bankrupt now. I don't think I've ever talked about him. But if you know about the James Ramlin show, right, I have this thing with Russia and hard base and that whole Russia history episode we did. Well, this is a guy that actually travelled to the areas of Russia, like he went to like Belarus or the Eastern Europe, like Belarus and stuff like that. Went to these like villages, like people who still live after the Chernobyl stuff where that whole nuclear thing happened. And what's really good about Baldwin Bankrupt's content is how like he actually tries to find a perspective and like how life is there and things of that nature. It's not just like recording it because it looks cool. He's trying to find out all that stuff. He's also done this video, a couple few videos on Bangladesh lately. He's also done this video on like Mongolia, which is quite interesting. So you've definitely got Bald and Bankrupt. So to kind of follow through on that, there was also Life of Boris, who is this YouTuber that I don't think I've ever mentioned before, but he did this collaboration with a hard bass artist Yami. But he's done content like he's done some food stuff and he's done some like Metro Exodus and Stalker and he's done all these kind of videos, and I do like him. He's like, "Hello, welcome back for another video. It's Life of Boris, huh?" Stuff like that, and he's from Estonia, so definitely giving those shout outs to Bald and Bankrupt and Life of Boris. So I do want to talk about some traveling. Go back to the traveling stuff, right? There's also Chris Broad. Now I think I mentioned him like a trash taste and whatnot, but he's like this guy that's actually travelled around Japan and sort of got to know the culture, kind of like Bald and Bankrupt in a way, but he's just kind of dissecting Japanese culture and all of these Eastern Europe places. So he actually climbed Mount Fuji, which is like the highest mountain in Japan, I think it is, like 3,000 meters or whatever, like something 3 meters or something like whatever, right? So he does all these interesting videos and he travels around, and I definitely like him for that. And so we go back to when we start going back to those British YouTubers in general. Also got this guy called My Rate My Takeaway who does these videos. Is like this guy is like rate my takeaway. We're gonna go to the shop and get the fish and chips and all that. And I definitely like him. Like his content's very interesting to say the least. But I don't watch him all the time anymore. And to kind of follow through on that, there's also report of the week. Who's like, "Hello everybody, it's report of the week" and all that. And welcome to the new running on empty food review. And he does food reviews, but Mate My Takeaway more so does it outside. So you kind of get that where you got some like YouTubers. So what else is there to talk about, right? I don't think I'm going to dabble into like tons and tons of YouTubers, but because of the Sidemen charity match, it gave me a bit of inspiration. So, I guess what we could dive into is how I've got a job tomorrow. So, yeah, as you know, it's a delayed episode right now. So, tomorrow I've got this job that I'm going to have an induction and I'm going to be cleaning up a factory. And I did this like safety module thing in this hard drive, this flash drive, where I answer these questions on safety. Also, had to sign this stuff so I could get paid and stuff like that, and agreement, and write down your details, your address, etc., etc. I had the interview, and I did actually have to do a drug test last week where, I was peeing and stuff, and I was just very nervous, so it took a while. But I'm glad I got the job, right? Because if you knew a couple of weeks ago, I had this whole thing with Asda where I tried to phone them, and this whole thing happened where I didn't get the job, and I'm kind of forgetting about it now. So hopefully we'll get that sorted. And this is a full time job, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Also, it's 9/11 I'm starting on, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Like that whole event that happened. So we'll be getting that, getting overalls, have to have showers, etc., etc., etc. So you get that kind of stuff where I am starting a job. It's a sewage plant and it's like related to Drax. It's called Hargreaves Industrial Services. So you get that kind of stuff where I am dabbling into getting that job. So I'm glad about that. So there was also this other thing that happened yesterday called Loch Earn now. I don't think I've ever talked about this, but it's like this lake in Scotland, and it's like you got all these like rocks near the water. You can do a bunch of fishing. You can do some camping down there. So I went yesterday with my family. Like I woke up at 8 a.m., right, and then I got there at like 11 a.m. and then we went back at like 7 p.m. Then I watched the charity match. Thought I was gonna record the episode, but I didn't. But we did have some food, and one of my uncles actually sang some songs there as well. Sang some songs, and we tried to do some fishing, but we weren't very lucky. Got food, so there's definitely that kind of stuff where I'm going to Loch Earn. So you've got that, right? What else is there to really talk about there? I don't actually know what else we can really talk about. So don't know, but that's kind of it, right? We definitely had a lot of topics this week. There's a lot of topics where we had the stuff. Actually, hold on a second. I guess we could talk about rugby a little bit, right? So I know we dabbled into the Sidemen charity match and all of that kind of stuff, but there's a couple of rugby games recently where New Zealand actually got destroyed by France, which is kind of interesting because you'd think like they would actually win, but it turns out that New Zealand got wrecked. Like it was really hot, right? New Zealand were playing against France, really hot, and they got absolutely destroyed. And then there was also Scotland and South Africa today, and actually Scotland got destroyed. It was like 18-3 to South Africa. And I'll actually look up the score for this the France game, right? Hold on a second. We went a lot of the episode without that, so kind of a different topic, isn't it? So France versus New Zealand. Where is it? France versus New Zealand NZ rugby results, right? So it's 27-13 to France. So definitely got destroyed. And I don't even know if it was the heat at this point because like it wasn't even hot for the South Africa and Scotland game. Like it wasn't very hot. They weren't sweating, but I was trying to root for Scotland. But I definitely preferred the charity match to those things. Like I think just football, I kind of enjoy it more than FIFA at this point. So other than that, really, I'm not too sure if there's any other topics to be honest with you. Like we've covered quite a few things in the episode. So we might have to use a couple more clips inside of the intro so that we can stretch it out to that 20-minute mark. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the James Ramblin' Show. There's no review show episodes this week don't know when the next movie I'm going to be watching. I actually just forgot about this, right? I do actually have my Cineworld card now, but yeah, it's not really a very important topic, right? So you get that stuff. Hope you enjoy the episode, right? Shut up. We'll see what we have to offer for next week's episode. So yeah, see you next week for another episode of the James Ramblin' Show, and tune in as always for like we're almost at 90 something episodes. Got this terrible lighting going on, so yeah. Bye 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 bye. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Bye 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 bye. Hope you enjoyed the episode of the James Ramblin' Show. Bye 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 bye. Bye 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 bye.